Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Navigating IIBA Certifications in 2025, presented by our Director of Business Solutions at Watermark Learning, Dr. Susan Hiedorn. My name is Mariela Salinas, and I'll be assisting and moderating our session today. We are in Zoom for today's webinar, and we will be sharing a copy of this recording with you in an email after the session. We do encourage participation throughout the session, so please use the chat or that Q&A option for our short Q&A after the presentation. Educate 360 is so excited to present this webinar today. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Dr. Hiedorn.
Thank you so very much, everyone. Happy Friday. And I can't believe it is the last, last Friday, certainly in May, almost the last day of May. It's like, where did that go? So hopefully you're all here to talk about the IIBA certifications, and that's what we'll be talking about today, the various certifications that are out there and some of the options that you have around them. So the next Q&A session that we have, tell your friends, your colleagues, or whatever, will be August 22nd. Just to note that we have all our certifications that we offer, Watermark offers through IIBA. We do have both live instructor and on demand, so you can do it at your own pace. So you have some options there depending on how you learn. And also, and this is special through Educate 360, our parent company, is that they are offering a 30% off certification exam and application fees and a one-year membership. So if you decide to take one of our classes, as you check out, there'll be a cost for the class, and then the cost for, depends on what you're taking, application, if there'll be a cost for the application, the membership, one-year membership free, and the certification exam. And we give you a code so that when you sign up for IIBA for the exam, you have a special code, and you've already paid for it. So you get that 30% off, which is really kind of nice these days. At least I think. I always like getting 30% off. So make sure that, though, if you do take one of our classes, you'll get two options, one to take the class and then the one for the bundle. And you do get, like I said, too, the one-year free membership. So you can download all the guidebooks, the business analysis, body of knowledge, the guidebook to all the other certifications that we offer. And as a member, it is free download. Otherwise, you can go to Amazon and pay for it. But if you get it free, it's always nice. And for those of you who are already members, what they do is let's say you've had a membership for 3 months, they will stop that membership. They will give you your money back for the part you didn't use. So if you had 3 months, they will give you back 9 months. And then they'll start that new free membership. So you don't lose anything, even if you're a member. So a few IIBA announcements, just to let you know what IIBA is doing. And this is only until May 31st, unfortunately. But if you're taking CBAP, CCBA, and you have to do your application fee, if you can get it done in the next day, it ends the 31st, but they're giving you 50% or $50 off, not 50%. That would be really nice, but $50 off the application fee. Also, join us for BBC conference. That's the big IIBA conference they have every year, and this year is in Phoenix, June 9th through the 12th. And so if any of you happen to be there, look us up. We'll have a booth there. Also, they have, and I'll talk about this when we get to the new, when we talk about the ECBA exam, they have a brand new exam coming out July 21st. So if any of you are looking at the ECBA exam, note that as of July 21st, it's going to be a whole new exam, whole new material. It is still based on the foundational premises of the business body of knowledge, but it's going to look different. Instead of a knowledge-based exam, it's going to be more application-based. So they made a lot of changes. They updated their business analysis standard, which is will be also used for the exam. And then, of course, they have great resources. So just use their resources. They have templates, they have white papers. I go there quite frequently. It's really a great resource. So upcoming certification prep classes, and if I enticed you enough, we have a CBAP certification prep class, June 9th through 12th. We also have one in August and October. ECBA, like I said, the new exams coming out July 21st. It coordinates really nicely with our class, which I mean June 21st, it's July 21st. And we also have a certification prep class for CBDA, which is June 23rd through the 24th. It's only 2 days. And then if you like AAC, the Agile certification, we do have that on demand. So just some things to think about. So let's talk about the core certification levels. It was actually started when IIBA started. The first certification it had was CBAP. Okay, that was started in 2006. It's almost 20 years, in which you needed 5 or more years of experience, and having a college degree does not count. And was really focused on providing business value. How does business analysts provide value? And that was kind of the first one that came out. And then they had said, well, some people don't have as many hours as they need. They're kind of in the middle. So they decided to create kind of a middle level certification. So they call it CCBA, Certification Capability and Business Analysis, where you only needed 2 to 3 years of experience, because not everybody had a whole lot of experience. So it's kind of still moving up. And then in 2016, almost 10 years old now, they created the entry certificate, which is really getting to be of interest to a lot of people. And so those were kind of the first ones. And this is kind of focused on developing foundational knowledge, the principles of business analysis and how a business analyst might play the role in your organization, best practices, things like that. Certainly not as robust as the other two, but a really good, solid exam. So before we get too far into this, and I know we only have 15 people here right now, but I'm just curious as to what certifications everybody is going to after. And so, Mariela, if you could bring up the poll. And for those of you who are here, just select. I'm just curious as to where I should focus my time. Because you're kind of a little bit all over. So I just wanted to know. Looks like so far, CBAP, CCBA, AAC. Yeah, that's the one that we have only video on demand. CBDA. Well, that's cool. We have a whole plethora. So I guess I'll cover them all. So yeah, that is, let's see, did everybody 10 answered? I think we have a few more. If you still have time to put your response in, maybe you don't know, maybe you're just trying to figure it out. But if you were going to take it, which one would you take? And I always say, like, a lot of people come to me and say, which certification should I take? I always say, take the one that you can apply for, the highest one you can apply for. So if you only have hours for CCBA, take that. If you have enough hours for CBAP, take the CBAP. What the heck? You do not have to take them all. People always ask me that. Well, do I have to take ECBA, then CCBA, and then CBAP? No, I only have my CBAP. We combined our CCBA and CBAP together. And ECBA, like I said, right now we're working on the new material. So thank you for that. It looks like we have a little bit of everything. So I'm going to talk about a little bit of everything, and hopefully we will meet your needs. So move that. Okay, so ECBA. people new to the BA profession, moved into a business analysis role, managed business analysts, but have never been one, just got out of college. Great certification to have. It's well-rounded. I love the stuff that they're doing with the new ECBA exam. I mean, it's bringing, rather than just memorizing definitions, they are really making it more applicable. And there's two guidebooks actually for this. It's the Business Analysis Standard, which just came out, not just came out, let's say the new version 2.0 just came out, as well as the BA-BOC. But it really focuses on how do you apply business analysis in an organization. And so it works on the core concept model too, and but which probably means nothing to a lot of you, but it's really bringing business analysis home, which is great, rather than just saying, okay, I learned a lot of terms, what do I do with that? It's really making it live. So what does this mean when I'm sitting in an organization? So there is now, the nice thing about ECBA, there's no work experience hours. There used to be professional hours. They took that away. There is a code of conduct. Of course, as business analysis professionals, we all have to behave and have that code of conduct and an ethics policy that we sign. And then the exam fee, if the first number here that you see is a member number and the last one is a non-member. And so you can see that there's a vast difference. So there really is a lot of value of becoming a member. CCBA is for BAs, 2 to 3 years of experience. You might have been an ECBA, you don't have to. If you've already said, hey, Susan, I've already got a number of years of experience, I've been doing this for a while, you might want to be a CCBA then. Hybrid BAs, particularly people who wear a project management hat as well as a BA hat and have done so for many years. It's a good one for that. Non-business analyst consultants or trainers. This one, the guidebook, this is what everything is based on when you study, is the Business Analysis Body of Knowledge, and that's the same for CBAP. You need 3,750 hours in the past 7 years, and you need 900 plus hours in 2 knowledge areas. There's 6 knowledge areas, and so you need 902 of them, or 4 of them, you need 500 hours. You also need professional development hours, which means you had to have taken a class in business analysis, a formal class. And you need 21 hours of that class, so you need like a 3-day class. We have combined, because it's so similar, except for the questions, CCBA and CBAP on the things you need to know. So we have combined them into one class, which actually gives you 35 hours because it is a 4-day class. And again, just the exam questions are focused a little different, but you need to know the same stuff. And so both of our CCBA and CBAP already have the hours housed in the class itself, so you don't need to take any additional hours. You do need 2 references, and those references have to be either a CBAP or your manager, the one who gives you your review. There is an application fee because you have to prove your hours. And so you have to write all your hours down and what did you do and all that stuff. And it does take time. So there is application fee of $145. And again, CCBA is $250, members, non-members, and CBAP $350. And CBAP is for people who have more than 7,500 hours of experience. You've done this a long time. Maybe you're a consultant, seasoned BA, trainer. So this would be a good one to get. So I always say, a lot of people come into my class because we put them together and they say, well, I think I'm going to go for my CCBA. And by the time we get done and show them everything that a business analyst does, they go, you know what? I think I have enough hours for CBAP. So just check, make sure you write down all your all your experience and count the hours up, see how much you really have. Might be worth going to this, because then you don't have to take another exam if you ever wanted to get your CBAP. So that's that. Here are the specialty. So IIBA now has some specialty certifications. And the first one that came out was the Agile Analysis Certification. This is BA's playing an Agile role. People that most of my projects are in Agile, or that I want to augment my skill sets, but they don't have any eligibility hours. You don't have to say, well, I've worked on how many Agile projects. Generally speaking, though, you do need some experience in Agile, just so understand the nomenclature and the principles of Agile and all the the basics. What is Agile? How do you spell Agile? So you do need some of that basic information before you can take this. They do have a guidebook, Agile Extension Guide. There's no eligibility references needed. Code of conduct, yes. No application fee for any of the specialty certifications. And the exam fee, which is when they first started, their exam fees were different for everything. It's just like AAC, you paid this, and CBDA, you paid this, and it was a mess. So it was nice. Now they just, made it across the board, 250 if you're a member, 400 if you're not. Then came CBDA, Certification in Business Data Analytics. So if you are in the data realm, maybe you work with a data scientist, or you do a lot of data analysis, data reports, whatever, and you want to be recognized, or you want to make sure you have the standards, you can certainly get your CBDA. These are the first two that I also have too. So there is a guidebook, the Guide to Data Analytics, and again, same thing for the rest. CCA, Watermark does not offer that, because they have a lot of their own, IIBA has a lot of their own learning modules. So it is a certificate in cybersecurity, however. And this is a BA who wants the opportunity to learn key cybersecurity concepts. And like I said, you can go to IIBA.org and look under certifications. They do have a number of manuals, guidebooks, whatever you want to call them, to study from. And then this is the latest one. This came out in 2021, Certificate in Product Ownership. Again, in the Agile environment, a lot of BAs support the product owner, or they are fill in for the product owner. Maybe they're considering a product owner path. And so they do have a guide to product ownership analysis. So those are the two that we don't have right now. We're thinking about getting the product ownership, but we don't have it right now. Cybersecurity, not sure where we're going with that one yet. So exam comparison. Okay, so we have CBAP. CBAP, because it's the most extensive certification, is based on a case study. So you have a case study. The case study might be 3-4 paragraphs long, not huge, but it takes time to read it, right? So within the exam itself, they will have maybe 3, 4, 5 max case studies along with scenario questions, but they'll have a case study, and each case study will have 3, 4 questions based on that case study. So you have to skim the case study, then you have to read the question, then you have to read all the answers, and then of course select the best answer. It's multiple choice, thank goodness. 4 answers, A, B, C, and D, which is true of all of them. There are 120 questions, and it will take you about 3.5 hours, just, because it's a lot of paging back and forth. What is the case study? It gives me context. What's the question they're asking? What are the answers? And so it's going back and forth is a little cumbersome. And so it does take time. And this is also going to take time to study. Generally, we say that for CBAP or CCBA, it's going to take you two to 3 months to study for it. Had some exceptions around that. I've had students who said, I'm just going to take 2 weeks of vacation and take the exam, and they pass. But that's all they did for 2 weeks. I didn't want to take my vacation to study for an exam, so I took the longer path, I have to say. So CCBA, kind of the same thing. We're looking at the same business analysis body of knowledge, same concepts, but instead of a case study, they're making scenario-based questions. It's kind of like, okay, you're a business analyst and here's a situation, what would you do? Or what's missing? Or what would you do first? Or what would you do next? Or what technique would you use to do whatever? So it gives you some situations and then you say, okay, now what would you do? What would you suggest? It has 130 questions because I think part of the thing is you don't have to go back to read a case study. Each one is a self-composed question. And they give you 3 hours. They give you a little less because, again, less scrolling, even though you have 10 more questions. ECBA used to be knowledge base, kind of just like, okay, what is observation, or just basic, what is business analysis? What's the definition of business analysis? They decided that they needed to make it more application based. So it's like, it's not enough just to learn the concepts and the definitions. Okay, that's great. You kind of need to know them, so you have the same vernacular and terminology to talk to people and understand it. But it's really about how would one starting out in business analysis understand how to apply this. And so the questions are probably at most one or two sentences long. And they talk about being able to apply the concepts of business analysis. So that's what you're learning. You're just, it's not as detailed in the scenarios. There's only 50 questions, 75 minutes. They increased that, actually. It was an hour, and now you get 75 minutes. Because it's just a little bit more difficult. I wouldn't say difficult, but it takes you longer to just kind of think about, again, it's just not definition and what's the definition of X. So multiple choice questions, but it's more applicable. So I really like what they've done to ECBA. Like I said, it's recently come out. The exam doesn't change until July 21st. So if you want to get your ECB based on the old stuff, you still have time to do that. But as of July 21st, hard stop, new exam comes out. So and like I said, our first class is July 21st, so it coincides right with the cutoff. So if you want to go for the new one, I really like what they did. It just makes a lot more sense. Rather than trying to just be a mini CCBA or CBAP. It's like, how do I use this stuff? How does this make sense? So anyway, going back to specialty, AAC is also scenario based. They'll give you a situation, they have 3 horizons in AAC. What horizon would you be working in, or what technique would you suggest here, or whatever. So it's scenario based. Multiple choice, you got 85 questions, but you got 2 hours. Same thing with CBDA, only you got 75 questions. I have no idea who made these. Some are 85, some are 75. Who knows? IIBA probably knows, but I haven't asked them. So scenario-based, multiple choice. CCBA is not more knowledge-based. Again, more definitional. What is it? 75 questions, 90 minutes. And then the CPOA only has 60 questions, and you have 90 minutes to do that. And again, it's knowledge-based questions with multiple choice. So there's just kind of some comparison. So here is a brand new, hot off the press, ECBA exam blueprint. It used to be just very similar to the BA-BAC, which you'll see shortly for CCBA and CBAP. But 50 questions. And so and it's by domain. So the first one is understanding what is business analysis? Help me here. What is the mindset we need to be for being really good business analysts? implementing business analysis, how we implement. And then we got the rest is on the core concept model. The core concept model applies to business analysis in no matter what situation, what industry. It's all about the change, which anytime we're working on a project, it's change, right? What is the need, the problem, or the opportunity, the requirement? What is the solution, the stakeholder? Value always has to be forefront. If we're not providing value, we're not doing our job. And context, understanding the context in which a business analysts work. So that is gets you to 50 questions. And so it also has questions. If you look at the BA-BOC is 26 underlying competencies. And the competencies, just make sense. Learning is a competency. Creative thinking is a competency. It's, the competencies are not hard. You just have to figure out how would I apply one? How would I apply it in business analysis? And then in the CBAP and CCBA, there are actually 50 techniques, and there's more than 50 because sometimes they combine them. But they are limiting it, thank goodness. So it's not overkill to 20 techniques. And what is it and when would you use it? So that's kind of the focus there. And those underlying competencies and techniques aren't in addition to, they're incorporated in these. So you might have a technique question when you were working on change. So one of the 5 questions might be a technique question. Or, one of the 5 might be a stakeholder question, might be how do I collaborate with them or whatever. So even though we talk about the underlying competencies and techniques, they're incorporated into these questions. So the core CCBA and CBAP, these are the BA-BOC chapters. This is chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 9, chapter 10. So the first chapter in the BA-BOC is business analysis and BA profession, just a little bit of key concepts. And then we have a whole 26 competencies and 50, actually more, techniques. And then you have the knowledge areas. These are the knowledge areas for both CBAP, CCBA. You have business analysis planning. This is where the business analysis professional will have their work. So we have to plan our work along with the stakeholder work. We have to elicit requirements. We have to collaborate with our stakeholders. We have to manage our requirements. Strategy analysis is understanding the current state and the future state and suggesting, solutions. Requirements analysis and design definition is analyzing the requirements, verifying, validating them, defining the design, business side of the design, and then solution evaluation. Once we get it done, did we get the value we thought we were going to get? And so you got to remember 130. Actually, this should be reversed. No, that's right. CCBA is 130. That's out right, and 120 for CBAP. I was getting myself confused. Now, here's the key thing, because I've seen people do this, and this is a kind of a warning I want to give you. Is that if you look at the blueprint, and this is right off IIBA's website, is that it'll look like this. And it's like, okay, so this is NA. But so people think, oh, I don't have to learn the competencies. I don't have to learn the techniques. I'm just good. I'll just focus then on the knowledge areas. Wrong. And I've had students in my class say, yeah, I only studied that and I failed. Yeah, you will fail if you don't know the techniques and the competencies. Because what they did is they took all these chapters, the stuff in those chapters, and put them into the knowledge areas. So look at this one, requirements analysis and design definition, which has the most techniques used. 42 of those. A lot of them are around techniques. They might give me an example of an entity relationship diagram and ask me 4 questions about how to read it and what does it mean and, what can I do with it, etc. So all of this information from these chapters are incorporated into the number of 130 and 120. So I just want to warn you about that. All right, so and here's the knowledge areas at work. We got to plan and monitor our work. Now we're not planning for the project. That's the BA or the PM's job. As a BA, we're going to plan for our stuff. You know, what do I need to plan for? And we'll also plan for the stakeholders. How do I elicit requirements? What are those elicitation techniques do I need to do? How do I prepare for elicitation? How do I confirm those results? Collaborating with our stakeholders, the more we get them to trust us, the more better information we get. And then we have to manage those requirements. This is the care and the feeding of the requirements. You know, how do we prioritize them? How do we manage them? How do we get them approved? You know, how do we store them and get access to them? This is really, again, all the care and feeding of requirements. And then strategy analysis is actually that pre-project work, current state, future state, understanding the need, what is the problem or the opportunity. And then generally we do this, and then there's usually a business case if it's a big project, otherwise it might just be a little ticket. But then we get more detailed requirements, we analyze them, we model them, we verify, we validate them. We figure out if it's a build versus a buy. I mean, there's a lot of things we can do in there. And then once it gets towards done, we could, you know, we evaluate the solution. You know, if we were going to get an increase in productivity, did we? Did we get that increase in revenue? Are customers happier? And obviously we have to make it measurable or we won't know that we've got it. So for those of you who are doing CBAP and CCBA, go to IIBA.org and download the certification handbooks. It will tell you everything. So to fill your eligibility, you need your hours. And like I said, if you sit in our classes, we give you those hours already. You don't have to take another class. But if you have it and you want to do it on your own, that's fine too. So you need 35 hours for CBAP, 21 hours for CCBA, the last 4 years. And it has to be a formal instructor-led training. It can't be just, I read a book. Work history, we talked about this a little bit earlier, and you don't get any points like project management. I'm also a PMP. You got points for having a college degree. So I didn't have to have 7,500 hours. I could have had, you know, I could have less. They don't give you that. It just is what it is. 2 references. I talked about that. It has to be a CBAP, your career manager, or if you were a consultant, I was a consultant for many years, it could be one of your clients. Then you pay for the application fee. You load up all your data, all your eligibility stuff, and agree to the code of conduct that you're going to be a good BA, terms and conditions, then submit that application. And you will receive an email really quickly whether they accepted it or they didn't accept it. So you don't have to wait for a month or anything else. It's really quick turnaround. Excuse me. And so that it either is approved or it's pending an audit. There's 2 reasons why you would be audited. Number 1 is just because your number's up. So if any of you went through TSA pre-check, kind of the same thing, or any, not even TSA pre-check, just going through the security. You go through and it just sometimes beeps, and it's not because you did anything wrong, it's because your number was up. So then you have to go through the, you know, more detailed pat down line. So that could be it. It could just be your numbers up. I was actually had an audit because once you're certified, you have to get recertified. So my recertification information was audited, not because it was wrong, just because my number was selected. So that is one way to have an audit. The other way is that there was something in your work history or references or development hours that was flagged. It's like, well, this doesn't add up to right, or this seems more like a project management stuff. So when you do your eligibility hours and maybe you wear a PM and a BA hat and have done so for a long time, make sure you don't have any PM work in there. Now there's some overlap, like BAs will do risk management and they do plan, but only for their BA work, not for the whole project. You just got to make sure you keep those project management pieces out because they will get flagged and then subtracted, and then maybe you don't have enough hours. Registering, review once your application is approved. It's like, yay, it's approved. Okay. Then you get to review the exam rules, pay for the exam. And again, if you get our 30% discount, you just put the code in there. You don't have to pay for it again. Certainly log in to the Get Started. They go through PSI as their proctoring system. So for CBAP or CCBA, you have two options to take the exam. You can take it in person, which is kind of nice because there's no, distractions. The dog isn't coming in yelping because he needs to go outside, or the cat's walking across. Your computer, which you'll have to keep all the pets out no matter what, even if you're sitting at the home, or the kids or anything else, because that will cancel your exam. So then you schedule it for a time, either in person or online. Take the exam and get certified, yay. And your application, because you do have an application for this, is good for 1 year. So generally, I always suggest people, once you filled the application, got it approved, try and take your exam 2 to 3 months, not any later, while it's still fresh. I have had some students, though, life happens, and life does. You don't know what life's going to throw you, and it ended up that they had to either extend. You can ask for an extension. I think you might have to pay a fee for that, though. And then, or they're trying to quickly, study in a week before their expiration date. So try not to do that. Just be proactive, and as soon as you get that exam approved or your application approved, then take your exam. Registration for ECBA or the specialty. You have no application, so that makes it really easy. Get the handbook, making sure you're doing everything right. It also tells you all the information you need, the technical information you need to do online proctoring. Pay the exam fee, agree to the code of conduct, ethical conduct, as well as professional standards, terms, conditions. Study, usually specialty in ECBA, 2 weeks max that you need to study. Schedule your exam, and then get certified. So exam prep tips. If you're doing CBAP and CCBA, which is a lot bigger effort, like I said, 2 to 3 months of studying versus 1 to 2 weeks, read the BA-BOK at least twice. Now, let me tell you, it's really dry reading. So if you want something to help you get to sleep at night, just pull that out and start reading it, because it will put you to sleep. Now, there's wonderful information in there that's needed as a business analyst, but it is really dry. It's not, keeping you at the edge of your seat in any stretch of the imagination. But go through it twice. Just hear it, listen to it, get an understanding of what they're trying to tell you. You certainly can supplement it. We have a prep class. You don't have to take a prep class if you don't want. You can study on your own. We have study guides, we have study tables, we have flashcards, we have practice exams. If anything, I would entice you to, whether it's ours or someone else's, take some practice exams, because that kind of helps you get ready and get into the exam question mode, right? Study well, again, usually 100 hours average. Study 1 chapter, 1 section, 1 knowledge area at a time. Use practice questions, I said that already, and then take your exam. Now for ECCBA, they don't take as long, so maybe 20 hours, a couple weeks. Read any corresponding guidebooks, because they do change and they don't always tell us, and maybe you're going to take the exam down the road. They could have changed by then. Again, we have study information, or you can make your own study aids. It doesn't matter, you don't have to. And after you study, the guidebooks. So make sure you have the appropriate guidebooks when you study. CBDA has their own guidebook. AAC, the Agile certification, has their own guidebook. ECBA now has not only the BA-BOK, but the business analysis standard. So it kind of has two guidebooks. So just make sure you have the right guidebook that you're studying from. So testing tips. And this has helped me a lot. I have a lot of certifications. Mariella would tell you, is like, and this is what helps me. So I'm going to give you a few tips. So one, don't dwell on one particular question. You know, if you're sitting there for 5 minutes on one question, you better mark it and just go with it. So generally, they say mark the difficult one, and then you can come back to it because it's all computerized, and so you'll have the number of questions up on top, and then you can just flag it. What I always suggest, though, and which I've learned through the School of Hard Knocks, is that I mark it, but I do my first guess. So if I can narrow it down to two, like A, B, C, and D, it's like, okay, is it B or D, B or D? Oh gosh, I think it's D. You kind of go with your gut sometimes, right? But I mark it because it's like, you know what? If I have time, I want to come back and review that to make sure that maybe I was looking at the question wrong, or I wasn't sure what they were asking. Want one more time to do it. So I'll mark it. Now here's the plus side. If, let's say, I get through all the exam questions, I don't have time to go back to my flagged ones. If I haven't marked anything, one, they're wrong. Okay. And at least if I guessed, I have a 25% chance of getting it right because there's only 4 options. So I always mark, even though I go, oh God, I do, you know, get it down to 2 and at least select one and then mark it. It's like, if you have time, you can go back. Don't overanalyze it though, because sometimes we get into that next one is second guessing yourself. And then you convince yourself that you were wrong. Most of the time, and I've done I've proctored paper exams, which I would, review to see what was correct or not correct. And a lot of times people change their right answers wrong. So unless you're sure, don't change it. Narrow to 2 options I talked about, I guess if you must. Don't change them unless you really know it's wrong. And look at your elapsed time. It'll have, and it has a little countdown, and you'll see how much time you have left. So, if I have 50 questions and half time is there, it's like, okay, I'm good, or maybe I have 90 minutes and 20 minutes. I got the first 25 done. It's like, cool, I can relax a little bit. So just remember to lapse time. If you are getting towards the end, you might have to pick up the pace. And because you don't want to leave unanswered questions, because as we know, they're wrong. Okay, ECBA, CCA, and CPOA, read the questions carefully, then read all the answers. Here's the one thing that's really helped. I read the question, the scenario. Well, if it was a case study, I'd read that first, but scenario, then go to all the answers. And here's why I do that. I'll quickly read the question, read the answers, because sometimes the answers kind of tell you what they're trying to ask. Because sometimes you read a question going, what in the heck are they even asking me to do? I'll read it again. So sometimes I'll read the question, go down the list of the 4 answers, and then come back up and then say, okay, what are they really asking given on the 4 answers? Because sometimes that indicates what they're really asking, and I would have never thought they were asking that. See the scenarios, read them carefully, then read all the answers again, same thing. Here in CBAP, you got to read the case study, read the scenario question, and then go back up. But make sure you know what they're asking, because it can be tricky. Sometimes it made sense to the person writing the question, but it just doesn't make sense to me. I have to do a double take. Resources, ECBA, again, used to be only on the BA-BOC, but they now came out with the Business Analyst Standard. They added that. At least the first 3 domains are actually based on the Business Analysis Standard. It's actually based on all of the Business Analysis Standard is probably your core resource, but the BA-BAC is kind of like a sister resource because they will reference the BA-BAC as well. And additional support, they do have an exam blueprint. They have a learnings outcome and a syllabus, which I love. Yay. So that kind of says, okay, if I'm looking at this, what stuff do I need to know besides a whole book, right? It narrows it down. And then they have sample study questions, which is nice. And again, if you're a member, you can download both of those books for free. Yeah, there I go. Whoops, sorry. Going a little crazy here. My mouse. So for ECBA, we have flashcards, we have study tables, which I like. My favorite is the study tables. You can make your own flashcards if you want, because sometimes the act of creating flashcards kind of helps. How to Talk BA, which is more of kind of key terms, kind of a nice desk reference book. And then, of course, we have online exam questions. For CBAP, CCBA, we have the BA-BAC is from IIBA, so go to IIBA website to get that. And we also have a study guide, which is like the BA-BAC, but it puts it in English. Like I said, the BA-BAC is really dry. So CBAP gives it more life. It's like, oh, well, here's an example of when you would do that. I mean, it adds a breath of fresh air to something that's really dry. Study tables, again, just I find that valuable because I need big picture. How does all this fit together? That helps. Flashcards and study exams. AAC, we do have flashcard study tables and online practice questions as well. For CBDA, we only have practice questions. You can go to our website for like the study tables or flashcards, or you can buy them on Amazon as well. Except the online questions actually come with the class. So if you take a class from us, you get 90 days of those online questions, which you can extend if needed. And you can also purchase them separately, but you would have to go to the Watermark website under certification resources to do that. They're not on Amazon. Recertification requirements, CBAP, CCBA, 60 credits every 3 years. I try to portion them up. So once you get certified, it's not like, oh my gosh, I got 2 weeks, I got to get 60 credits because it's an hour. So if, let's say I took a webinar like this, it would be an hour. That'd only be 1 credit. I'd have to take 60 of them. Or if you go to conference, it's a little bit easier. You do volunteer work, or this is where you can also read a book or do a presentation or something. And so there's a lot of opportunities. Go on to IIBA.org again. They have a recertification handbook, and they'll tell you all the ways you can get credits. The nice thing is that they do overlap. So like I might go to a webinar and it's a little bit around, it's more about data analytics, but a little in an agile environment. I might get, a 3-fer. So I can apply it to my CBAP, I can apply it to my AAC and CBDA. So they have the list when you get recertified, and you just drag to what it's covered, and it might cover all 3 things, and I get, 1 credit for each area. And the good thing is ECBA, CCA, and CPOA, no recertification credits. So that's kind of nice. And don't wait until the end. I spread it out. The unfortunate part, I have to say, about AAC and CBDA, which I also have, you have to do 20 every year. It keeps you on your toes, but it's, I'd rather have something every 3 years. So just an FYI, it's like, how many are there of the one certification that I want? Okay, this is as of April 30th. Of course, we don't have this new month of May here yet. So we got about 15,000. It's almost catching up, which is amazing because look, in 2020, we didn't even have 5,000. Now it's already 15,000. Really growing area. CCBA, not so fast, but they've doubled since 2020. Over, 14. Well, not quite doubled. CBAP. AAC is growing quite well, knowing that it hasn't been out that long. Same thing with CBDA. It takes a while to get some traction in these certifications, and then all of a sudden they go, oh, there's certification. It gangbusters. The interesting thing is this wasn't even in existence in 2020, the product owner, and now there's, it's pretty much, it's catching up fast to CAAC. So fun facts. This is actually based on a survey that IIBA does, an annual survey, and the benefits of certification: people get higher confidence, upskilling, finding a job, salary, work fulfillment, performance review, promotion. A lot of times, just like if you get your certification, you can move up the ladder. At the average, CBAPs earn 20% more than non-certified. So that's always kind of like, I could use some more money. Would you recommend certification to colleague? Over 95% said yes. And they got benefits within, most of them within 6 months. So it is really useful. So questions and answers, we have a few more minutes. I think I know a number of people had to drop. And anybody have any questions for me? If not, Mariella, I will let you close out.
Absolutely. Oh, hello, hello. Testing, testing. Awesome.
You're there.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hiedorn. I'll go ahead and give our audience about a minute to drop any questions or any feedback in the chat. But if they wanted a little bit more info on this topic, please do not be afraid to visit us at watermarklearning.com.
And I wish you all a happy Friday, and on your next certification, I hope that you pass. And if you need anything, just contact us, please. Or check with IIBA.org. There's a lot of information on their website as well. So wishing you all the best. Have a great summer, everyone, and good luck on your certification journey.
So excited for everyone joining us today, learning a little bit more about their certification. So thanks again, audience, for joining us. And thank you, Dr. Hiedorn, for all your amazing insight.
Thank you.
Alrighty, everyone. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you all very soon. Bye for now.